Hello, everybody. Welcome to the regular business meeting for the District of Squamish for Tuesday, May 5th. Holland Squallen, Clis Tuktumet, Squamish Oakmeal. As always, we're gathered to do our work today on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. Please be advised this council meeting is being live streamed, recorded, and will be available to the public to view on the District of Squamish website following the meeting. If you have any concerns, please notify the corporate officer present at the meeting, which would be Ms. Blombudeau. Council, can I have someone move adoption of the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor French. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Our first order of business is under delegations and invited presentations. So we have Bruno Carturan is here from the for Wild Salmon Day. Come on up and there you go. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Council. My name is Bruno Carturan. I'm a data analyst for the Pacific Salmon Foundation, and I live here in Squamish. And I'm here today to invite the District of Squamish to be part of the Wild Salmon Day for 2026. So Wild Salmon Day started in British Columbia in 2019, and it has since grown to a global movement. It is a single day occurring every June 1st, and during which communities around the world come together to celebrate wild salmon and raise awareness about why they're important to us and what they need to do better and thrive. But the data is sobering. 2/3 of Pacific salmon population are below their long-term averages. And as well, around 2/3 of stream level population are not monitored anymore. Yet salmon are the lifeblood of community like ours in Squamish. They feed the forest, support First Nation culture and food security, drive tourisms, I can't say that word, sorry, and anchor the identity of the sea-to-sky corridor. Wild Salmon Day is about sharing hope for salmon. This year's campaign focuses on habitat restoration, highlighting the project and people working to bring salmon back by healing the river, estuaries, and watershed they depend on. Healthy habitats are an important part of salmon recovery, and we've seen many examples of successful habitat restoration here in Squamish. For instance, the Mamquam River Reunion Project, or the project of restoration of the Squamish estuary. The Pacific Salmon Foundation is very thankful for the Council's support of Wild Salmon Day in 2024 and 2025. And today we're here back to ask you, Council, the same thing, to officially recognize June 1st as Wild Salmon Day. This is a simple but meaningful signal that this community stands behind salmon conservation. The District of Squamish and residents could also, if they want to, propagate this signal on communication channel and social media using the hashtag Wild Salmon Day and by posting the digital flag. Squamish is uniquely positioned for this. The Squamish River has one of the most important salmon watersheds in the lower mainland. All 5 species of salmon, coho, chump, pink, chinook, and sakai, they all return here to spawn. Salmon are inseparable from what makes this place special, and so is the inspiring work local community members take on to restore their population and their habitats. Wild Salmon Day is a chance for the District of Squamish to celebrate salmon and to highlight the meaningful salmon restoration work happening in this community. As in 2024 and 2025, proclamation for the District of Squamish from the District of Squamish, truly help us celebrate and raise awareness for the Pacific salmons. We would be very thankful to include Squamish among the cities joining Wild Salmon Day on June 1st for this year. We have supplied a draft proclamation for your consideration. Now, I'm happy to answer any question or to connect you with my colleagues at PSF. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your submission and for participating in the process that gets us this far. Council, questions for our guest? And if there are none, we also have the recommendation in our agenda package. Is there someone that has a question or wishes to move? Go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay, and for those in the room, the recommendation is that June 1st, 2026 be proclaimed Wild Salmon Day in the District of Squamish. Is there Councillor French seconding that? Councillor Greenlaw, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, happy to support this important initiative. The Squamish are salmon people, so this is an incredibly important cultural piece as well as environmental and it's such a beautiful thing to watch our salmon spawn every year. You know, we do it on the way to school with my kids, and it's anything to help raise awareness about it and help improve their likelihood of survival. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor French, go ahead.
Anytime that we can talk about salmon, I think we should do it at this table. So thank you very much for coming to us with this request and allowing us to make the proclamation. It's important to the salmon and to our natural environment.
Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for being here, for all the work you do. Our watersheds and our food sources and cultural elements are under a lot of threats these days, and so it's nice to be able to support something that's looking to improve all those things. So thank you.
Thank you. Council, other comments? I'm speaking in support of the motion. Thank you so much for, like I said earlier, for going through the process to get here and presenting to council. I grew up on the banks of the Squamish River, not far from CHM Village, and very acutely aware of the sort of the life cycle throughout the year of the wild salmon was really something that really marked the passage of time in a meaningful way for me, and I think has since time immemorial. So thank you for your work on this, and I'm happy to support and see this move forward. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you. So next we have Miss Tomko joining us from the Save Your Skin Foundation for Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So she's joining online for those in the room. So go ahead. You should, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Taylor Tomko. I'm the Director of Special Projects at Save Your Skin Foundation. So Save Your Skin Foundation was an organization that was founded in North Vancouver in 2006 by melanoma survivor Kathy Bernard. So we are a melanoma, non-melanoma skin cancer, and ocular melanoma advocacy group, and we work to support patients, survivors, and caregivers touched by these diseases. We organize awareness and education initiatives. We work in healthcare equity, and we offer support groups, one-on-one support, and financial support as well. So one of our education and awareness initiatives is asking municipalities and provinces across Canada to proclaim May as Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month. So Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month being in May is advantageous because, of course, it starts to get across this messaging about being sun safe and aware of skin cancer in advance of the summer heat coming through. So in terms of melanoma and non-melanoma skin cancer and their frequency and their effect on Canadians, non-melanoma skin cancer is the most common cancer in Canada. It's so common, in fact, that there actually aren't statistics about it because it's so often just removed in doctors' offices without being reported. Melanoma, which is the most aggressive form of skin cancer, is the 7th most common cancer in Canada. It's the 4th most common cancer in Canada among those between ages 30 and 50 years old. Melanoma is, again, a very aggressive and very deadly disease, and melanoma rates, unfortunately, have been on the rise since the 90s. The Canadian Cancer Society estimated that 10,800 Canadians were diagnosed with melanoma in 2025 alone, and they further estimated that about 1,200 Canadians passed from melanoma in 2025. And of course, these numbers are horrible, especially for a disease that is largely preventable. There is a certain aspect of genetics to melanoma, especially if you come from a line of fair-haired, fair-skinned people. However, largely melanoma has been connected to UV exposure, especially the younger you are, the more aggressive burns you have, the more likely you are to develop melanoma over your lifetime. So because melanoma is such a preventative disease, we like to call across Canada and get as many municipalities as we can to advocate for their citizens to be aware to be sun safe over the summer months. So Squamish joined us in doing this last year, and we would love to have your support again. I'm here to answer any questions that you have about this initiative or any of the work that we do at Save Your Skin Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Council, questions for our guest? And yeah, go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Thanks so much for being here this evening. Last year, when your organization came to present, there was some discussion around a pilot project of like putting sunscreen like dispensers in public spaces. And I'm just curious if you have any report out on how that went in other communities, if there's opportunity to model that elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yes. So this year for 2026, we're aiming, because it's our 20th anniversary, so we're trying to go big. We're hoping this year to have 100 dispensers across Canada. So these dispensers, we partnered with municipalities, we partnered with independent organizations and like Indigenous healthcare centers and other equity serving centers to provide sunscreen. So free of charge for a 2-year contract from the beginning. So I can connect you if you're interested with my colleague Megan, who can go more over some of the contractual pieces about this. But the dispenser itself, there are versions that can be mounted on walls or have a stand with it, or we have stationary jugs, depending on what kind of space we're talking about. The label that comes with it has some sun safety tips, a QR code for the website. It has the Save Your Skin Foundation logo, and hypothetically would have the Squamish logo as well, and the ingredients for the sunscreen. We use Green Cricket sunscreen, which is a mineral zinc oxide sunscreen, so organic and from Canada, FDA approved. Which does mean it's a little bit thicker, but it's not a chemical sunscreen. So it does have that safety advantage there. So yeah, if this is something that Squamish is interested in, would be happy to connect you. At this point, we are running a bit low on our stock for 2026 because this is a funded project. So, at a certain point we run out of our funding. However, if you're interested, can definitely either get something for 2026 or get you on the wait list for 2027. Usually we start at 2 dispensers per municipality, and then we're able to offer at least 2 years of sunscreen.
Okay.
Sorry, that was potentially way more information than you wanted.
That was
This
no, that was great. Thank you. Council, any other questions? Or similar to the previous one, we do have the recommendation. If someone's ready to move that. Councillor Stoner moves. I'll second that. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you. Just thanks for being here for a second year in the row. Happy to put forward the recommendation that we proclaim May as a Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month. I think your presentation outlined why this is so important, especially at the start of summer, and look forward to following up with you directly on opportunities as you've experienced them and putting sunscreen dispensers out. I think that's often one of the biggest challenges for folks, just making sure they have sunscreen on hand. So there's good ways that we can make that easier. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
Yeah, happy to support. Unfortunately, I have many people in my immediate network who have had either close calls or very difficult experiences with melanoma. So I know firsthand that it is prevalent in our communities. So thank you so much for this work, and happy to advocate on your behalf. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thank you for presenting. Thank you for the reminder to me personally. It's been 2 years since I had all my moles checked, and it's I think time to do that again. And I do think it would be fantastic with some of our, summer all-day festivals to have some of these dispensers out. I could see them being well used. So thank you to my colleague for remembering that and bringing that up.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to support the motion. And I think your presentation, as Councillor Stoner said, did a good job of speaking to why this is so important. And I feel acutely aware of it this time of year, as I feel like I've crawled out from under a rock that is the winter and cold and wet times, and then right into the full blasting sun, and getting into that habit of the positive habit of getting sunscreen on, taking appropriate precautions is is something that I need a reminder of from time to time, and is something that I look forward to exploring further as to ways we can work together to make that easier for the community to protect themselves. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll contact Riley tomorrow, perhaps, and we can discuss the sunscreen dispensers further.
Yep, thank you for that. So next we have a delegation of our staff. Come on up. Thank you. I'll let you introduce yourselves and the topic. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. My name is Devin Kiyonaga, Director of Public Works. And with me, I have Ben Kinoshenko, our Manager of Utilities. His portfolio includes water, wastewater collections, wastewater treatment, as well as electrical and automation. And I also have Pat Smith, our new Manager of Public Works Operations. This is week 4, I think, for him. And his portfolio includes fleet, roads and drainage, and parks.
Can I just hold for just 1 second? Just to our IT team, that camera doesn't appear to be on at the podium. If you could, if that's possible to adjust. No, it's not. Okay, we can do without. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I will take the explanation later. Sorry, back to you. There we go. That's a little better.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you see what we're working with there. We are
All
trying to
right.
capture this for the folks at home, so.
All right.
Okay. Sorry for that technical glitch. Back to you.
Thank you. So we are here today to request that Council proclaims May 17th to May 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week here at the District of Squamish. This year's theme for National Public Works Week is Rooted in Service, Powered by Community. The District of Squamish has celebrated National Public Works Week almost annually since 2009, and this annual observation is designed to inform and educate both staff and the public about the integral role Public Works plays in the community. And I'll hand it over to Pat.
Thank you. This year's Public Works theme, Rooted in Service, Powered by Community, acknowledges that the roots of service run deep in public works. It's what has propelled public works innovations that have helped our communities evolve into places where people can lead lives of purpose and possibility. Some work, like building, maintaining roads, parks, play fields, and bridges, are highly visible, while other public works contributions, like maintaining water and sewer systems, are less so. Together, these efforts form the foundation of thriving communities, reminding us that every project, seen or unseen, powers the connection between service and the people it supports. This year's theme, Rooted in Service, Powered by Community, mirrors the district's vision of contributing to and serving the thriving community of Squamish.
In past years, the Public Works team have created custom t-shirts for staff and council, had held educational events for more than 400 grade 4 and 5 students at the Public Works Yard and Wastewater Treatment Plant, organized staff celebrations, communicated to the public through media releases, social media posts, educational videos, and face-to-face outreach. This year, due to the ongoing and soon to be completed Public Works construction of the new Public Works facility, events will be smaller scale than some of our past years. We're going to include public media outreach, an all-staff celebration, infrastructure tours, and water conservation education for elementary students in their classrooms. We are already looking forward to 2027 when we can once again welcome the community back to the Public Works Yard. Funding for this year's event will be shared between the Public Works Department and CUPE Local 2269.
Thanks, folks. So once again, we're here to request that Council proclaims May 17th to May 23rd as National Public Works Week at the District of Squamish. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation and all the work that you do, and for being safe while you're doing it. That's like, Council, questions for our guests at this point? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
I note that we have a staff event, largely with the Public Works Department coming up at Brennan Park, if I'm not mistaken. I just wanted to note, I really enjoy meeting with your department, with all of your equipment and learning more about the equipment and its issues and challenges and opportunities. And I hope you're going to have couple of pieces of equipment out in the yard for me to play with at Brennan Park and the event coming up. Thank you very much.
Councillor Stoner?
On that note, I think one year you folks did like an equipment rodeo when they weren't able to get to bring the classes to the Public Works building. I think you brought some of the equipment to the classes. An additional suggestion, folks like the equipment.
Any other comments or questions here? I'm going to actually move the recommendation because I feel like we're just having we have comments from here. So, yeah, thank you for continuing to champion this. I think it's incredibly important that we share with community that what's happening in public works. I think it's something that often the community takes for granted when the clean water comes out of the tap and you flush the toilet and it goes where it's supposed to, and you can get to where you need to go on well-maintained roads and so on and so forth. With the so I thank you so much for continuing this work, and I've enjoyed every iteration of this that I've experienced over time, as I can already hear some of my colleagues have as well, and I look forward to seeing what's in store this time around. So thank you very much, as well as welcoming the community and staff to the new building when the time is right, which is soon, I think was the quote I'll use from. So anyone else have comments on this? Councillor Pettingill? Councillor Stoner, second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, also very happy to support the motion. Thanks for all three of you coming down and making the presentation this evening. I think every year has had different iterations, but the fact that this happens every year so consistently, you folks not only doing the important work that you do to keep our community running, but also taking the opportunity to elevate that work and show it and showcase it with community is so valuable. So thanks for doing that year over year. Excited to celebrate with you folks, and grateful that this is being jointly funded with QP 2269 and the Public Works budget. I think that's a really awesome way forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for coming here tonight. Thanks for inviting us. I'm glad my colleague mentioned it's at Brennan Park. I was planning to go to Public Works, and I may still do that, but now I know at least when I go there where to go after. And I really appreciate actually just going around the community on my bike and seeing our Public Works team, who is our community members, just our community members working on our community, every sort of little corner everywhere you go, and usually with a smile and a wave. And just thank you so much for everything your team does.
Councillor French, go ahead.
Thanks for noting the QP involvement in all of this. That is a hardworking workforce who provides what I think are the two most important things in my life anyway. When I turn the tap on for water, I just want it to be there, and I want it to be clear and good to like go into a glass and into me. And then number two, when I flush my toilet, I just want all of that to go real smooth. And my experience is that those two things just always work well. And we celebrate this week because you make those two things smooth.
Any other comments here? Go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say thanks to you guys for making this happen and for putting in all the hard work to educate our community about it. And I've always heard really positive feedback about the event. So yeah, looking forward to it. Another successful event this year. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next item on the agenda, we're on to number 4, which is unscheduled public attendance. And this is an opportunity for anyone that has a matter they feel is either urgent or relevant to an item on the agenda, and therefore cannot wait until our next regular business meeting, which would be in 2 weeks. So if there's anyone that would like to do this, if you identify yourself now, then I'll go through the process. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So how this works is you'll be invited to address council, and you must so state your name and provide a short sentence regarding the item you wish to address. Council then votes on whether we hear the submission or not, and then we'll go from there. So I'll try to stop with instructions throughout. There shouldn't be a time pressure, and that'll happen at the podium we just saw folks present at. So come on up and please approach the podium.
Hello, I'm Anastasia Kogan. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm hoping to speak on the HART file and specifically on an angle related to children and the school roads.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, would we like to hear from Anastasia this evening? Yep. So moved by Councillor Greenlaw, second by Councillor French. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. So so how this works is you have 5 minutes to provide information to council. Council may have questions for you, but just I think my instructions are the same regardless of the topic, particularly if it's not on the agenda, which it isn't this evening, is that there's not a decision here, and I know the complexity of this particular issue. It should be clear that it's not something we're going to be able to resolve here this evening, but we're here to listen and to have a bit of dialogue about it. So with that, I will turn it over to you. You have 5 minutes or up to 5 minutes to address council.
Great.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And also thank you to councillors who've been kind enough to correspond by email on this matter. It always is great to be heard. I didn't have a chance to line up childcare today. This was not a ploy, but also a great opportunity for my child and his best friend to see what the city governance actually looks like. A great learning opportunity. And then for those of you who might not own an elementary aged child, a reminder of what they might look like. So I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old in the audience. So I'm a parent and a resident of the Sea and Sky community, which is a 500-ish and growing household community across the river, about to become directly connected to the downtown by the long-awaited bridge. And I understand that you've already heard from other community members on this topic. And I also understand that our community is very keen for obtaining the funding from the province and improving both the safety of our downtown and the lives of the most unfortunate people that are struggling and need support. I think it's also very clear that the location that's been proposed to BC Housing to date is suboptimal. For a variety of reasons, but for me as a parent, the main reason is child safety. As you all know, Squamish has more children than an average municipality in BC. Children's safety is paramount. They're little people, they don't have a voice of their own. So it's important that somebody speaks on their behalf. And our community, the sole pedestrian route to the school will be directly along the site that's proposed today. There's no other way to walk anywhere else just because of how the geography of our town is. So with that, I know there are already discussions on alternative locations. And I think at this point, the community is really keen to, or the community, but I don't necessarily represent all of them. I'm very keen, and I'm sure other members of the community are very keen to find out, are those alternative locations being seriously considered? Who is looking at them? What is the timeline? How does this look like? Are we putting enough resources to move it fast enough to package them up to the province so they can actually see that there is something, there is a viable alternative, so we can all move forward and not lose the funding like some other municipalities have. That's probably it for me. So I guess it's the question around timelines and what are the next steps with moving with the expedient review of the alternate sites. Thank you.
Thank you. I think sort of to my earlier statements around this, this is an issue that we're clearly not going to be able to resolve here this evening. It's also not an issue or not a decision for council here today, and may well be in future. So I think that was it 2 weeks ago at our last regular meeting, we passed a motion requesting BC Housing to, so Heart and Hearth representatives to come and present to council and community to try to surface as many of these questions as we can. But there is a lot that's unknown. But I can say that there's not a decision for imminent for council on this one way or the other. I think BC Housing, who's heading up the search for places to put their project, are the project page, which really should answer as many of the questions, surface as many of the questions as they can at this point in time, is meant to go live. I just checked now because it's in that sort of imminent phase, so there will be more information will be available as it becomes known, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to go too much further with that or speculation around alternatives and timelines and so on, because those are aren't fully known at this point in time, which is why you're here asking. But those answers aren't here, but we'll try to surface those as fast and as efficiently as possible. And a lot of the onus for this, it will be on BC Housing, as it's their initiative, whether it occurs on municipal land or on other land. It's their initiative, and our piece comes in, one, I think, in the coordination and the relaying the needs of community and concerns of community. But really, I think, comes in when it's potentially on a municipal site, but it may very well be some other site that is the choice, and that will be of BC Housing. So it's their piece. So we have this piece where I think at this point, because it's so early in the process, some of those who's taking the lead on the communication and in what way is part of what's still sort of crystallizing with this project. So I want to recognize that there's a lot of unanswered questions, and those are questions that we don't have the answers for at this table. I would say what I've heard from council, I don't want to speak. I speak on behalf of council from time to time, but I don't want to do too much on this particular subject right now. But we largely share the same, a lot of the same concerns of community. We'd like to get the answers and the trade-offs that we may be considering surfaced as early as we can, but we don't have that yet.
Is it possible to just jump in with a clarification maybe for my question?
I will try, but I may not be able to, but right. Go ahead and then.
I guess on their presentation, because there are a lot of already materials available online related to other communities, so it's already, a lot of it can be already gleaned there. Like, it's a location where drug use is allowed. It's a lot of the parameters are sort of clear. I guess what's not clear is the roles and responsibilities. So is it really then, let's say they're considering private parcels of land, is it then BC Housing that's going out and talking to Squamish developers? And then district only gets involved once they come to a conclusion? Or how does that process look like?
I'm getting into a couple of hypotheticals, but I'll entertain it for a moment. But I tend to get quoted when I go this way, so I'm going to make sure I'll do my best. But the supportive housing is an allowable use in all of the zones in the community. So not just in some of the feedback we've had, it seemed to imply that it was exclusively if it was on a municipal parcel, but on it's allowable use in the community. So therefore, there are scenarios that could come forward that may not require council decision. So that's one piece. So that might not come to council ultimately. But I know that our team works collaboratively with BC Housing to pass on if there's information that comes forward that gets to BC Housing that we should have, they pass it to us, and vice versa. So there's that coordination piece is something that's has been active for some time, but I would say having the Heart and Hearth designation actually makes those things more able to move forward. So I know that's sort of a non-answer, but it's also the truth of where we are. I think. Does anyone else want to comment on this? I've been or have a question for our guest? Not at this point, or Councillor French, yeah.
My preference would be a motion to receive the submission from Ms. Colgan, and I have comments.
Yeah,
I'll move that.
Yeah, I'll second it, and then
okay.
Do you want to comment?
Yeah. It really takes something to come to a meeting like this and present in this way with two young people in tow, who are not a distraction. It's super cool. It's kind of refreshing because we don't get young kids in our chamber very often, and it's great education for young people to be here. So in just putting this motion on the table, I wanted to speak for myself in responding to one particular question. Are we serious about alternate locations? And as in other than Winnick Park. And for me, myself, I have heard loud and clear from our community that that park is fully unacceptable. And I am 99% in a position of feeling like that is off the table as a location. So from my perspective, we are very serious about other potential locations.
Thank you. Thanks for the comment. I also make sure that this isn't, we're not being asked that question today. I'm happy to, if people want to say where they are, but I just want to be clear that we don't have, that's not a question for this, necessarily for this conversation today, or right at this point. I'll go to Councillor Greenlaw. Did you have, sorry, I thought I saw your hand. If not, that's totally fine. No?
No, I'll make a comment. I feel like it's similarly to Councillor French. I feel as though there's been quite a lot of community feedback, and it's a conversation that is ongoing. I feel in this position, nothing is decided yet, and from my perspective, my stance is always I like open communication and lots of collaboration. That's where I come from, and that for me, that's the optimal outcome. Obviously, we are in a situation where the majority of the people who have come to speak out against it, they're not speaking out against the program itself, just the specific location that's come. I think everybody in our community is, rather responsibly acknowledging the fact that this is a need that our community needs, and it's in all of our best interests. So, like, how do we maximize this situation, and how do we have the best outcomes for our community? That's where I hope we end up.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks for being here. I think I just want to reiterate the motion that was made a few weeks ago to bring BC Housing and staff to a meeting to our community to be able to kick off an understanding of what it means for Heart and Hearth to be in our community, what resources that comes with. I've heard loud and clear an interest in a necessity for more engagement. It would be disingenuous, I think, for us to sit here and say, absolutely, that is on the table or off the table. We don't understand what the criteria are that BC Housing has with regards to location selection. And so those are questions that I think are very fair to be asking. And I think we need all the partners at the table to have that conversation. And so I think the commitment that I heard in the unanimous support from this council for that motion was to make sure that we have a kickoff for what that looks like, an open conversation in an open council meeting, and we move that work forward. And so I think that's the piece that I continue to focus on, is how do we reorient this so it is in a good way, so it can, we can still take advantage of the funding that has been made available to us, but we understand what that means and how that's going to show up in community.
Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming tonight and the correspondence that we've had. Just sort of to add a little bit, and some that is in some of the conversations I've had with people. From my perspective, seeing the struggle of the people living in encampments, the people living around encampments, and the fact that Heart and Hearth was one of the few potential tools we had. We did push really hard as a council. From my perspective, whatever it takes, we wanted it here. And for me, a little bit, although we were pushing hard, it was a bit of surprise that we got it, and a happy surprise. And that happened in February, and so now it's a like, okay, now how do we make it work? We realize we're not fully in the driver's seat. This is a collaborative partnership thing, and so we're trying to figure out how do we make it work? How do we make this the best thing? And so that means pushing, from my perspective, as hard as we can for something that works for the community and the whole community. And we know if the people who are in encampments now, who this is meant to help, if it doesn't have that objective, then we're not actually seeing the value in this. So we really need to be conscious of that too. And no one's, I don't think, saying otherwise, but it just, the next step is we've got the first thing, we've got Heart and Hearth here, and now how do we sort of pull together and get all the pieces together? I understand the cynicism and the fear that, this was sort of decided long ago, and the process is very awkward, and I do feel like, the discussion, the questions are sort of a couple of months ahead of where we are in terms of sorting out, all these answers. And so hopefully people can be patient with us, and certainly open to have more conversations with people as this progresses. And I hope, we have no choice but to figure out a way to make this work somehow. And there will be compromises, and hopefully there are ones that make our community better at the end of the day.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks very much for coming out. There are so many places where when the community speaks up about something, there are always little pieces that we hadn't reflected on. So it is always appreciated to hear from the public. I am really grateful that almost every correspondence that I've received on this starts with recognition that this is an important project for our community. And I'm also very grateful that a lot of people have also taken that next step, if not here, then where. And I've had quite a few people start engaging with, okay, what is a suitable alternative? So while I absolutely recognize this process, the community is concerned about this. I am very grateful that our community is speaking up, and very grateful that we're able to have many meaningful conversations. And I do hope that the community affords us the patience to work through this to a good solution that works for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. And I think, thank you, Council, for your thoughtful comments here, and thank you for coming to see us. And I'll second that. It's nice to have some young folks in the audience, adding some life and energy to the room. Is also really reminding us of the future, and we're here to do good work for not just today, but into the future. To that end, I think my expectations are that this, particularly the modular housing piece, the hearth piece of the Heart and Hearth, wherever it lands, is to be backed by robust community engagement, and particularly if it does come to council table for a decision, something that there will be a high, I think a reasonable expectation, which is a high expectation of engagement on what exactly is proposed, including operations, all the questions that folks have, and then we can contemplate the potential trade-offs. And there likely will be a trade-off wherever it's positioned. And in this seat, I often look for the exact question I'm going to be asked. And that actually isn't quite clear to me yet, as far as I'd like to avoid a situation where it's this or not, like the option presented or nothing. And I really want to make sure that we get to be able to have a reasonable discussion with community where we really understand what the trade-offs are of what's proposed. We've heard community concerns. I'm curious on how those would be addressed on any site, and particularly on the site that has been highlighted so far. So more to come, and there's a high expectation of engagement on of the project before it comes to council for a decision if that's where it's headed. So thank you for highlighting that and your concerns, and more to come. So thank you very much. With that, council, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you again. Is there anyone else that wishes to address council for unscheduled public attendance? Seeing none, we'll move on with the agenda. Next, we don't have a public hearing this evening, but we're on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Pettigo.
6DI, the Dryden Creek wildfire after action review.
Yep. Anything else? Anyone else like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, would anyone like to move the consent agenda with that one item removed? Moved by Councillor French, second by Councillor Stoner. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. So we'll deal with that, the Dryden Creek wildfire after action review at the appropriate time later in the agenda. So now we're on to bylaws. So 7A1. This is the District of Squamish election and assent voting bylaw number 2420, 2017. Amendment bylaw 3216, 2026. And we have our Director of Corporate Administration, Melissa Von Budeau, presenting to us. Over to you when you're ready.
Thank you, IT support. All right. Good evening. My name is Melissa Von Budeau. I'm the corporate officer, and I'm joined by Julie Winge, GM of Corporate Services. And this evening, we are presenting an amendment to District of Squamish election bylaw number 2420, 2017 for council consideration. The legislated deadline for municipalities to adopt or amend an election bylaw for this election is July 7th, 2026. As is consistent following previous elections, the provincial government implemented changes to the election administration section of the Local Government Act. Bill 11 was passed in the legislature on May 13th, 2025, with the amendments coming into effect for the election this October. Some key changes resulting from Bill 11 included changes to how the nomination documents may be submitted, a requirement to increase candidate privacy for nomination documents submitted electronically or posted electronically, and an expanded definition for secrecy enclosure for mail ballot voting opportunities. Taking into account Bill 11 and as it's best practice to review election bylaws in advance of the next voting opportunity, staff reviewed bylaw 2420 to ensure alignment with the legislative changes and to ensure that the process in the election bylaw remains current and to ensure clear procedures and rules. I would like to stress that the current version of the bylaw is in great shape. The bylaw was amended before the 2022 election and is still on par with the municipal standard. 2 amendments are recommended to ensure alignment with the legislation. This includes the definition for secrecy and closure and the additional language in section 3.3 under access to nomination documents. All other proposed amendments are administrative and recommended to increase clarity surrounding election procedures, mainly mail ballot voting procedures, and adding select definitions for authorized drop-off location, ballot, and register of mail ballots. In addition to the amendment, it also encourage people to come out and vote, staff recommend offering free transit on general election day. This service has been offered in Squamish for the last 2 election cycles. Approximately 25 communities in BC offered this service in 2022, and the lost fare box revenue is estimated at $600 for that day. That includes the presentation, and the staff recommendation today is that District of Squamish Election and Assent Voting Bylaw number 2420/2017, Amendment Bylaw number 3216/2026 be given first, second, and third reading. That Council directs staff to work with BC Transit to provide free transit for General Voting Day on October 17th, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council questions? Councillor French?
Thanks, Mayor Herford. I'm not totally clear on this. Does the update to the Local Government Act make it mandatory for election officers across the province to accept nomination packages by email? Or is email acceptance optional and up to each community?
It's not up to each community. It's in the Local Government Act. So it is a requirement that nomination papers be received by email if that is the preferred method that a candidate would like to submit. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's everything.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks very much. This is one of those that there's a clear timeline for review, which is very nice. Yeah. In section 3.2, the change, the first line of section 3.2 changes from nomination documents will be posted to the district's website to the chief election officer is authorized to provide public access to the nomination documents. Does this mean that we will no longer be providing those nomination documents by default on the district website?
That's correct. It does give more authority to the chief election officer to make that determination. Our practice has been to, and will continue to be, to post them on the website. The language that was proposed in Bill 11 around the requirement to redact residential addresses for candidates is very cumbersome, and we were looking for a way to make it clear in the bylaw that gave as much flexibility to the chief election officer to redact not just the residential address, but also emails, phone numbers, the address for nominators as well. So there's a lot of personal information in there, and we just want to make sure that nomination documents that are submitted and posted electronically are protected for privacy considerations.
Okay. Okay. I see the importance of particularly the redacting the personal information. And it's good to hear that our practice will be to continue to post all of the nominations on the website after being redacted. Yeah. Okay. I guess I don't need that. I'm just debating with myself whether I need that extra step of assurance to put it in the bylaw, because that's really what we have to go by. But I'll stop there and not need to go further. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you, the chair. some of the changes raised some questions for me in terms of like how many mail-in ballots do we typically have? And I know in past experiences, this has been a challenging process, just like timing wise, to actually get the ballots, reasonably get them to the individual and then have them mailed back in time. And so I'm just curious if we've given some thought as to how that process has worked in the past, if it's a requirement that we provide mail-in ballots, and what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is not a requirement that we provide mail ballot voting opportunities. It is in our bylaw, so now we must provide mail ballot voting opportunities. So the option for council, if you decided you didn't want to provide it, would be to pull that section out entirely from the bylaw. I didn't look back in 2022, but offhand, I want to say we received we mailed approximately 25 ballots for mail ballot voting. So it isn't significant, but it is quite a significant draw on internal resources to administer that process. There was a comment about the timing for getting ballots to potential electors, and that was taken into consideration, and that is included in the suggested change in section, 9.3 and 9.4. The previous language didn't have a restriction on the end time for when mail ballots would be distributed to electors. And we ran into constraints in 2022 with ensuring that we could even courier a ballot to somebody in a timely fashion and have it returned. So the amendment for this election cycle is that Wednesday at 4 p.m. is the deadline for sending out mail ballots. And even then, it's going to be tight. And this is further, we added the language, where we're proposing to add the language in section 9.5 as well to clarify the distribution methods for the mail ballots, because that was was not very clear in 2022 as well.
Thank you. Other questions, council? I don't have anyone else on my speakers list, so perhaps we're ready for a motion. Councillor Stoner moves the staff recommendation, I'm assuming, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, just briefly, thanks for doing the work and ensuring that our bylaw is up to speed with the adjusted legislation, but also taking the lessons learned from 2022. With regards to the mail-in ballot component, appreciate that that is a difficult drain on resources, but I think from my perspective, it's important to provide all opportunities that we can, everything from free transit on voting day to mail-in ballots, even if it's a little bit of a administrative headache. I appreciate the clarity that has been added into the bylaw, because I think that will help folks better understand how that opportunity will unfold if they choose to take it. But thanks for the work, and I think this is an important and timely piece of work.
Thank you. Any comments? Go ahead, Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor Herford, speaking in support of the motion. Submitting nomination packages by email presents an interesting new strategic element to submitting nomination packages tight to the closing deadline. I have heard of the practice, never done it myself, of hanging out at Municipal Hall in the last hour before nominations close to see who is submitting what. And now that we have this electronic option, that's not going to be a very good gauge. Should be interesting.
Any other comments on this? Just thank you for your work on this, and the changes that we're considering here all make good sense to me to keep this bylaw current with the legislation of the day, as well as to ensure that there's clarity for those administering it and engaging with it, whether they're running for office or or casting a ballot. The changes make good sense. That tradition that Councillor French mentioned does go away. I'm sure there's something better to do that day, anyways. But it is also, I think, an appropriate level of sort of modernization to a process that has been very, we'll just say the same for a long time. So I think it's appropriate that we evolve with the times, and this makes good sense. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Last word to you, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but just slight tangent. I really appreciate, one of the things I've appreciated on the last two terms actually is that there hasn't been a lot of trying to take advantage of procedural whatever things to make something happen. It's really been, you know, what makes sense? How do we hash that through? And so I kind of get a bit antsy when I think about people trying to, you know, get elected or not elected by watching last minute who comes in. So if we can do away with some of that gamemanship and just sort of focus on what's right, you know, if you put some thought into it, talk to people. And so anyways, the other thing I look, you know, I sort of wonder for next election, if we want, there's no such thing as free anything, but not charging people to get on the bus during the whole election period, if we're not at just not charging people to get at the bus in general, but maybe one of those two things is something to shoot for next election. But I think glad to have it on voting day this election. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're not redrawing any electoral districts or anything like we are hearing debated around the world. So I will call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. So next, we have the District of Squamish Tree Management Bylaw. And we'll give staff a moment to switch over and get their presentation lined up.
Hey, good evening. My name is Erin Urton, environmental specialist here at the district, and with me is Environmental Services Manager Jordan Foster. We're here this evening to present an updated tree management bylaw for Council's consideration of 3 readings. For clarity, I'll note that this bylaw has not been wholly rewritten, but has been substantially updated enough to preclude presenting as an amendment bylaw. This presentation will include a brief overview of why we regulate trees and tie this into the objectives of the specific bylaw revision, and will include an overview of the most impactful or substantive proposed updates. To provide some background and context, the district adopted and implemented its first tree bylaw in 2018 in recognition of the numerous benefits that trees offer the community, for residents, businesses, and visitors alike, and this is the bylaw we currently operate under today. This slide shows some of the benefits that trees provide as natural assets within the district, as well as how these benefits cross over to demonstrate the complexity and connectedness of trees in the community. This is not an exhaustive list. However, it is the basis for which the district has chosen to regulate trees and is an important preface within the bylaw. So why update this bylaw? It is normal process for municipalities to regularly review and update bylaws. As mentioned, this one was approved in 2018 and minor housekeeping amendments were passed in the spring of 2024. Staff have since identified a few areas important for immediate updating related to its current implementation, namely to support improving the efficiency of permit application and review and strengthening the regulation of mature trees. Scoping new areas into the bylaw was not an objective for this update. An urban forest management strategy project is expected to commence this year, and further tree bylaw review and updating will occur when recommendations come forward from this strategy. So specifically, the objectives were to first address staff identified regulatory gaps. These gaps were also informed by frequent bylaw user groups, including members of the development community, arborists, and other qualified professionals like biologists and landscape architects. Second, to align with current best management practices, not only with respect to arboriculture, but also related to invasive species management, and wildfire resilience planning and protection. The third objective was to align with recent district study, plan, and strategy recommendations, particularly those published after the implementation of the current tree bylaw, including but not limited to the 2025 Urban Forest in Downtown Squamish study and the district's 2022 Natural Asset Management Strategy. And finally, overall, our aim was to also take the opportunity to generally modernize, clarify, and improve the usability of this bylaw, not only by addressing the above, but also by simplifying language, adding useful terms, removing redundant ones, and cleaning up some formatting. Under this umbrella of objectives, staff outlined an update scope, which was provided to Council within a proposed work plan memo in the consent agenda on November 28th, 2025 at a regular Council meeting and is reiterated in this slide. All substantive proposed changes made under this scope were tabulated and attached to the Council report. Further, all changes were informed and supported by community engagement results, which are also attached as the engagement summary and recommendations report. To be concise, the next few slides present the most impactful proposed changes to this bylaw, which largely lie within the exemption section. To begin, under the current bylaw, there is a lot size exemption in residential areas that is often problematic and has been identified as unnecessarily complex. Under current criteria, and if the exceptions to the exemption listed below are not triggered, all trees can be removed on a residential parcel under 1 acre where a dwelling exists without regulatory oversight. With no permitting oversight, there is no requirement to maintain or supply a tree density target. Because of this regulatory gap or loophole, as you see on the slide, staff proposed to apply the bylaw equally to all parcels and use the calculated tree density target to more simply guide the permitting process. This will achieve more consistent tree protection outcomes, gives oversight to mature trees, and promotes planting replacement trees where none would have been previously planted. So under the exceptions to this exemption, or simply put, the cases that require a tree permit regardless of the tree density target, staff proposed 4 changes. The first is that significant trees remain a permit trigger. However, staff proposed the definition be updated to encompass trees 60 centimeters in diameter or greater, as opposed to 80 centimeters. Staff also proposed including wildlife habitat trees and a selection of rare and native tree species within this definition. Second, staff proposed modifying the slope trigger from 20% to 30% to align with the current soils management bylaw and with what is proposed in the forthcoming steep slope development permit area guidelines. Third, staff proposed modifying the distance trigger in relation to knotweed, a highly invasive plant with wide spreading rhizomes, from 10 meters to 20 meters to align with current best management practices. Last, staff proposed a new permit trigger for developing properties to recognize and appropriately mitigate for tree loss during construction and development. This ensures that all trees over 20 centimeters diameter receive permitting oversight, and these parcels are held to maintaining the tree density target. Continuing under exemptions, to begin aligning with best management practices related to wildfire resilience planning, staff proposed that tree permits not be required for tree removal work specifically related to FireSmart, noting that FireSmart assessments are offered to residents by the district at no cost. Trees subject to this exemption must be fire-prone trees and must be within the immediate home ignition zone. Last, staff proposed adding an exemption that simply clarifies that properties or projects removing trees guided under a valid environmental development permit are exempt from tree permitting to preclude permit redundancy. The final noteworthy update involves a fee increase. Staff proposed increasing the tree replacement fee. This fee is also referred to as cash in lieu and is collected into the Environmental Reserve Fund and is also independent from the fees and charges bylaw. The reserve fund exists to support internal environmental initiatives, including but not limited to vegetation and habitat restoration, and includes tree planting. Staff propose increasing this fee from $250 per tree to $500 per tree as a step toward better reflecting the actual cost of planting and maintaining trees. To support affordable housing projects, staff propose this fee be unchanged. To close, in addition to providing better tree management guidance, staff consider this updated bylaw a strong step toward better supporting a healthy, vibrant, and safe community. In doing so, it becomes more closely aligned with the policy and visions solidified in the district's official community plan. Therefore, the recommendation before council today is to give District of Squamish Tree Management Bylaw number 3229/2026 first, second, and third readings. Thank you all for your time, and we're happy to receive questions and hear comments.
Thank you very much. Council, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
I've got a few, so you may have to cut me off.
I'll be happy to do so. You'll know when. Go ahead.
So just the report in terms of hazard trees really focused on fire. And I think maybe you did allude to this, but just to confirm, hazard trees as written in the bylaws also includes like a dead tree or something that's risk of falling over and so on. It's not just fire related.
Through the mayor. Hazard trees are different from the trees that we're addressing in the wildfire exemption. Is that the hazard that you're referring to when we're speaking about hazard within the report?
As I read the report, it sort of mentioned hazard trees in the context of the fire hazard piece. And the report made sense. And then when I looked at the bylaw, I was sort of looking for danger trees and thinking maybe hazard was fire and danger was, but it seems like in the bylaw, hazard is anything where there's a hazard, like it is maybe extra flammable or it's going to fall over on someone's house kind of thing. Any of those things is a hazard tree?
Well, a hazard tree is a tree that it has been assessed by a certified hazard risk assessor and is has an identifiable target and is a public safety risk for falling or injuring someone. The hazard we're addressing in the wildfire resilience exemption or the fire smart exemption is the hazard of fire itself, not necessarily the tree. So the trees in this exemption aren't necessarily considered hazards. They're just fire prone trees. Did that explain?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. And I did want to ask about that. So to remove a hazard tree, it requires a submission of a declaration to the environmental manager. I was curious about when that has to occur. Like if something happens, you see, oh, that tree's about to go. Do you have to go and get the assessor and they have to submit the report before you can deal with it? You're like, oh, no, this is urgent. And then I have a week or 2 years to submit this report, or because I didn't see anything around timelines in terms of submitting this. Can you speak to that?
Sure, through the chair. Because the timeline is not delineated within the bylaw, it gives some flexibility around the timing so that imminently dangerous trees could be removed immediately if the professional risk assessor deemed that necessary. So we generally rely on that information from the professional to guide the timing of it. While it's true, we don't have a timeline for when that would come in post removal if it didn't come in pre-removal. But generally, that's not been identified as problematic. I'm not sure if that answers your question fully, but.
Okay, but does that mean then that this would be sort of, I'm not trying to find loopholes for people, but unenforceable if, I just sort of saw a dangerous tree to mine and figure if someone comes and asks me about this tree I cut down, I'll try and sort it out down the road, and then we're past then the point of being able to enforce this, or like, is that a gap that we should be plugging?
I'm happy to jump in.
Yeah, please.
Through the chair, the hazard risk assessment is a very standardized process. You need to be certified as a tree hazard risk assessor and we received those reports from professionals. So if you as a resident were to cut down a tree and call it a hazard just because you thought it was a hazard, that's not a sufficient hazard assessment. And we would not accept that as an exemption to the bylaw. We would require you to, have permitted the tree before its removal. It's not a problem that has come up before because it's such a rigorous assessment process.
Okay, I'll leave that. Thank you. Just this 50 trees per hectare standard, I guess in my mind, and maybe I think you spoke to some future work that's coming, and so maybe this would address this, but you know, in certain places that seems like a reasonable amount, but I can imagine near an interface area or something we might want to see more density or less density. And so I'm just wondering how we might address that, or do we actually think this 50 trees per hectare is kind of a one size fits all and works everywhere?
Through the chair, so 50 trees per hectare is sort of a general density target established through the urban forest discipline as something that would maintain a healthy tree canopy within a community. You could parse out different tree density targets in different zones if you wanted to. It was our goal to simplify the bylaw and to not add any areas to the bylaw or make any large changes with regard to tree density target. So that is something that we could scope into and determine through the urban forest management strategy, whether that is useful for us to alter tree density targets based on zone. It is possible other municipalities do it, but that would be something we would probably look toward in the future.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the last one, so maybe I will get through them all for now. Is this, if I understood, I missed it in the report, but in your presentation that up to 30%, it's only when you're above 30% slope that you have more permitting requirements, where it used to be 20%. I was actually a little bit surprised by that, and maybe it's in the regional district context of all the unstable slopes and all the climate change. I guess that makes me feel a bit anxious. And we haven't seen the steep slopes sort of final report yet. I'm just wondering if you can speak to a little more. I mean, that seems pretty steep. And I'm just, some more clarity on why we feel comfortable going from 20% to 30% for the cutoff.
Through the chair, the intent is to be in alignment with the other bylaws that are in effect right now, so that it's not disparity 20% in one bylaw, 30% in another bylaw. I appreciate that the steep slopes TPA has not come forth yet for final consideration, but this was a part of the process, speaking with hazard professionals that have identified 30% as a considerable slope that we would want to be paying attention to from a tree loss perspective. We do not allow tree removal if it would result in slope stability or offsite hazards on a neighboring property.
Okay, other questions, Council? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner, then Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, thanks for this work. Excited to see that this bylaw is being updated. My first question is around the tree density target. Can you just walk me through how that would apply? So if I was a homeowner with RS1 lot, like how would I calculate that tree density if I wanted to remove a tree on my property?
Sure, through the chair, you would multiply the size of your property in hectares by 50 trees, and that would give you your target. And then you would do a tree survey on your property of all trees over 20 centimeters in diameter. And you could cut up to your tree density target without a permit. Anything going beyond that, you would need a permit for cutting under the new bylaw.
So if my property was already below that target, I would need
you would need
permit for it?
Yes.
Thank you for that clarity. My other question was just something that you mentioned in your presentation, that the fees presented are independent from our fees and charges bylaw. And I didn't know that we were able to have fees in different bylaws that were not reflected in our fees and charges bylaw. So that was odd to me. Can someone explain how we do that?
I will attempt to answer, but get your attention in this response. The fees that are associated with the cash in lieu are a contribution into the environmental reserve fund specifically, and can only be used for environmental related work that is coming out of that reserve. So it's not revenue received by the district.
Got it. That's an important clarification. Thank you. And then my last question was around the proposed fees for the affordable housing. And just the language as presented in the engagement summary report. It shows strong support for the fees remaining unchanged for affordable housing projects. But I noticed that the language is really different than what was presented for replacement fees for developers. So in that question, it's like the result was, yes, this fee should be increased to reflect current costs. Whereas that option to increase fees actually wasn't presented. It was the fee should remain unchanged, or it should be removed, or it should be reduced. And so I'm just curious how like those questions actually reflect the options that were presented. And if we have a strong sense, if people felt like there was the opportunity to increase the fees for affordable housing, or if that just wasn't presented as an option in the survey. And that's 4.7 in the engagement survey results, page 12 of Diamond Head Consulting's report, page 113 of our total package. That's helpful to anybody.
So through the chair, to clarify, you want to know why we didn't ask if those fees should be increased.
Go ahead. Through the chair, the intention of asking about the affordable housing development specifically was, as you said, not to be looking to increase the fees, was to be looking to assist affordable housing projects in alleviating the cost associated with development. So it wasn't considered for something that would be increased.
I appreciate that. And I know that we have a strong push in supporting affordable housing. From what I read in the report, even the increase to 500 feels like it's pretty low for like the actual cost of tree replacement. Like I think the report says it's typically between $500 and $1,000. And so even with our proposed fee increase, it's already on the low end. And so I'm curious, maybe this is a question to my council colleagues around the like level of subsidization that we want to provide there with regards to ensuring that there are actually trees on site for all types of housing projects. Not a question to staff, a question to council.
Thank you for that. Councillor Anderson.
I noted with interest in the staff presentation that it's anticipated that potentially recommendations from the upcoming urban forest management strategy may involve some further bylaw amendments, the tree management bylaw amendments. My question is, do you happen to know or have an update on whether the grant funding has come through for the urban forest management strategy? In the report, you suggest it could be started in Q2 of this year. Do you have an update on that?
Through the mayor, thanks for asking. Yes, we did receive the grant funding to go forward with this project, happily.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. I just a question on the exemptions for having a development permit underway. I'm curious how, like, what that looks like and what's guiding those issuance. I know that we should know our development permit guidelines, but how are these values sort of represented in that process? I know we're not trying not to duplicate, but how, like, is it? I'm just trying to understand how we're safeguarding sort of the outcome that we're after here. this particular exemption? Like I'm trying to remember how the various development permit guidelines speak to tree retention and like these matters basically. And just, can you speak to that, the interaction of these regulations?
Through the chair. Appreciate that DPA 1, the Environmental Protection Development Permit Area, is technical in nature and it's delegated to staff, so it's not something that you see frequently. So that's okay. Very, very high level. What we are trying to facilitate here with this exemption is the redundancy involved in projects that have a DPA 1, an Environmental Protection Development Permit Area that applies to the site. And through the development application and review process, we've already either set aside, say, a forested area for protection, or are already accommodating compensation associated with the development permit guidelines. And then once all of that has been approved and permitted, then the applicant needs to also apply for a tree permit on top of that, which in our current process is all we would do is issue a tree permit to say, yes, you have already been permitted to do this work.
Okay, so in that, and thank you for your generosity of it's okay that I don't the DPA ones we don't see, but the so really the regulations there, it really is a duplication, not so much just by the time you get to that point, you know, we're less concerned. These things have been regulated through that development permit. Same matters essentially.
Through the chair, it absolutely varies site to site. You can remove trees that are not within the development permit area, which would not apply to, like, one could be tree permitting and one could be development permitting. The intent is to be able to encompass it all within the planning process of the development permit. They are parallel processes, but not the same. For example, the replacement tree criteria within the tree bylaw of meeting a tree density target. We don't have that language within the development permit area guidelines, but we have a 2-to-1 replacement of not only trees, but overall habitat function within the development permit area guidelines. So similar, but not the same.
No, that I think deals with the same topic with intent is fine with me. So thank you for that. That gives me some comfort. Yeah, please.
Thank you, through the chair. I am just curious then, how would something like the cash in lieu for a tree replacement be captured through the DP process if we're not using the tree permit process? Is that still something that would be available through the DP application process?
Through the chair, yes, we also have a cash in lieu component to the development permit area 1 guidelines.
Thank you for that. I'm going to pick up on a question, the inverse of what just happened. Councillor Stoner was asking earlier about the retention of the 50 per hectare, and the answer was take the size of your property and calculate it from there. And so make sure I understand, that's the application, not some sort of, I know I live in it's a single family home, but it's quite a small lot, and there's, you know, we're nowhere near a hectare. So it's not the surrounding area, and one sort of first past the post gets to choose what the density is. It really is down to the specific site, not that broader piece. Okay, I just want to make sure I had clarity on how that worked. And I saw nods at the table, but if you want to expand on that, that would be great.
I don't think I'll expand, but I'll just affirm. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the 50 trees per hectare. So if you have a smaller lot and your building footprint is half or maybe 2/3 the footprint of the lot for whatever reason, then you, I think, on the sort of treeable lot area, you're at 100 trees per hectare or more, unless you subtract building footprint from first. And because I think I heard that 50 per hectare is considered healthy for a forest. So would this inadvertently push lots into an unhealthy density of trees?
Through the chair. So if You wouldn't factor the building footprint into calculating the tree density target. You would calculate your target based on the parcel area. So for a small residential lot, you might have a tree density target of 5 trees. And if you're cutting trees below that target, you need to plant more to meet that target. And if you didn't have enough space on your lot to provide for those replacements, you would pay cash in lieu. So there's no adjustments to the target based on building footprint. I'm understanding your question correctly.
I'm going to let you mull that over. I'm going to go to Councillor Hamilton, and we can come back if something is triggered there. Go ahead.
Yeah, the 50 trees per hectare is just to get an idea of how many, and I think you spoke to it just now. It's 5 trees per 10,000 square foot lot. Is that? I think 10,000 square feet is 0.1 of a hectare. So I think if I've done the math right, we're talking about 5 trees on a typical R1 lot in Highlands, Brackendale, Valley Cliff. Sort of a lot of our lots are about 10,000 square feet, and that's 5 trees. So that's not really a question then, because I think you've already answered it, just to give people a perspective.
Okay. Any further questions on this? We do have a resolution. We had Councillor Stoner surface that high level, I'd say, question that's for council, whether we do have opportunity to offer an amendment and the fee for the affordable housing initiatives on the fee reduction or lower rate for that was something that was discussed, but we do have the staff recommendation before us, or we can move something alternative to that. I'm through my speakers list. Councillor Pettingill.
I guess I'm trying to. I guess I would like really high fees to maximize the trees, but I don't. I'm not in a position to say. I don't have the expertise to say this is an appropriate amount to achieve that outcome while being reasonable and legal and so on. So I guess maybe in the direction of supporting something from my colleague to increase somewhat, but I'm at a bit of a loss to know how far we should push.
What I'm going to do to get this to keep us moving along is I'm going to move the staff recommendation, and I'll speak to it if it's second. Councillor Anderson seconds. I think overall, I think this is going in the right direction, and I like the spirit of streamlining and efficiency, although I inquired into things of that to really understand that. It makes good sense. I think whenever we start putting dollar values in bylaws, and it is challenging. The cost of everything is moving rapidly, and what is right. And I think the feedback, as we heard from Councillor Stoner, around like what question did we ask? Did we ask the right question? And it's hard to ask to know what the right question is. And I think I'm overall with the bylaw, I'm supportive of the direction. I think it makes good sense. This last piece, I think I'm comfortable with. I think we do need to keep track of sort of the long list of things that we're doing to incentivize/subsidize affordable housing projects, and who bears the cost of the piece that's left, and what's reasonable. I think I could live with what's here, but in that broad scheme of all the many ways that we try to incentivize and subsidize affordable housing, there is a point that's too far. I don't know where, not exactly. I think it's up to us to define where that is. But this makes sense to me, and I think I could support it as it is, but I'd welcome a debate on amendment if that's where we end up as well. And I could be swayed on that particular point, but overall, I'm supportive of this initiative, and thank you so much for the work. Councillor Anderson, you want to speak to it as a seconder?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to note from the staff report, the public input has featured respondents concerned about Fire Smart and the accommodation in the provision for exemptions, and the fact that the Fire Smart assessments are no cost. This is really welcome news. I have recently been visiting properties at the request of property owners in the vicinity of Merrill Park. Of course, that's district property, but there are some themes and issues for a tree management bylaw, as well as the forthcoming urban forest management strategy that arise there, including mature hemlocks that are with dwarf mistletoe. Shade issues. Shade is described as a benefit, which it surely is in some of the staff presentation earlier, but also I have visited properties where shade is a real issue of encroachment and affecting property enjoyment and property value, affecting solar exposure for solar energy systems, and in fact, issues for buildings that are in the shade for late fall through early spring, quite dark conditions on the north side of Merrill Park. The urban forest management strategy, really looking forward to this and how we address the issue of the heritage tree issue and heritage forest. Indeed, there's patches of forest that are of interest. So this will be an ongoing discussion. I'm very happy with how all of these considerations have come together in where we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks very much for the work on this. I think it makes a lot of sense to be managing trees generally, and I know that's a very broad statement, but I don't think it's actually obvious within a community that it actually is an important piece that local governments play in ensuring the whole community is vibrant and treed. My primary concern in a tree management bylaw is this interaction between the development permit area and the tree bylaw. And I think you've done a great job of separating those two so that anybody going through the larger process of a development permit with the environmental assessment, that the tree permit, it's not an additional requirement on that process. It's integrated into the process. So with that, absolutely supportive. Thanks.
Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thanks. Very happy to support the motion on the floor. Absolutely was well overdue to get an update to this bylaw, given that it was first presented in 2018. I think before any of us were around the table, it was one of the last things that the previous council did before our council came in. And we learn and we iterate, and it's important that we keep our bylaws fresh as a result of that. Specifically, I too had some questions around the requirement of the Fire Smart assessment that would now be required for a tree permit exemption for fire-prone trees. And thankful to hear that that is available to all residents at no cost, and encourage more folks to take that up. I think that is a really good balance as presented in this new bylaw. The expanded definition of significant trees is absolutely welcomed, and I think well supported as presented in the results of the public survey. The simplification of the application process for the regulation, that it applies to all properties without the exemption previously that we had for site or lot size, I think makes good sense. And focusing on that tree density target, we'll all take a minute to wrap our heads around it, but we'll all get there. And I think it will, in the end, be much clearer for folks. And also appreciate the efforts to streamline the application process between DPA 1 and the environmental components and the tree permitting process. So with that, I think this is great work, and happy to support the motion on the floor. And updating the fees for the cash in lieu component is absolutely necessary, and continue to be supportive of reduced fees for affordable housing. And we'll, I think, just keep in check as to whether that is an appropriate amount as we continue to go forward. What we really want is people to replace those trees and not provide cash in lieu. It's important that we have trees on site for a variety of reasons. And so I think wherever we can support that, first and foremost, is the intent. Retain replace and then cash in lieu if necessary. I will say in all the engagement that I think I've done through Squamish Youth Council, through showing up at different classrooms throughout the community, this is one of the first things that kids always ask about is why are we not protecting more trees in our community? Every time that there's a development that happens, they just cut them all down. And so it's very visible. And I think this helps get us a step in the right direction and making sure that there's more urban forest canopy for our community today and in the future.
Thank you. Councillor French.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. When I talk to builders and developers, complaint number one that I hear usually revolves around the soil bylaw, and then number two is the tree management bylaw. So I support the motion mainly because I can see how it simplifies things, which is one of the things that developers and builders have been telling me we need to do. And it looks as though the process will be sped up through these changes, and I think that will be well received.
Thank you. I think that's through my speakers list, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So, Council, we have a couple we have some adoptions here. We do not have, as is our common practice, we don't have a presentation on these. So these are things that we've approved previously that have had all the T's crossed and I's dotted and are ready to go. So are you ready to move? We're going to move the first one, which is the Lot 15 Aspen Road, moved by Councillor French. I'll second that. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Pettingill opposes. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which is the property tax rate bylaw, moved by Councillor Hamilton, second by Councillor French. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And then finally, we have the District of Squamish. This is the 10-year financial plan bylaw, is the spring amendment. I will move that. Second by Councillor French. All in favor? Motion carries. Next, we have the staff report. So 8A1, appointment of community patrol officer. We do not have a presentation on this, again, as is our normal practice for these matters. So I will move the recommendation, and second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So what we'll do now, Council, I think we've earned ourselves a break, and when we return, we'll recess the meeting. We'll take 10 minutes, and when we recess the meeting, we'll move on to 8B1, which is a development permit DP 651 for waterfront landing, which is Sea and Sky Phase 6. So we've got 10 minutes, and we'll dig into that matter. Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. We're on item 8B1, which is DP 65, consideration of DP 651 or 651 Waterfront Landing, which is Sea and Sky Phase 6. I'll turn over to staff to run us through the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Carrie Hamilton, planner for the District of Squamish, and I'll be presenting for Council today consideration of Development Permit 651, located at 1500 Highway 99, known as the Phase 6 Waterfront Landing Site. The presentation today also includes LDA amendments for Council consideration and authorization. So Waterfront Landing, also known as Sea and Sky, is a master plan sub-area planned community to the east of downtown Squamish, across from the Mampcomb Line Channel, and is regulated by CD40 zoning. The site is broken into 10 phases, and this report to Council includes amendments to the phasing to clarify the breakdown of phases into 11. DP 651 for Phase 6 is located north of the protected bluff lands and south of the existing Phase 1 townhouses, shown in purple, and future Phase 11 six-story market rental residential apartment building, which is shown in blue. Phase 6 is west of the Laurelwood Road and east of Phase 7, which includes 2 six-story market residential apartments, which are also shown in blue, and a strata park shown in green. The development falls under DPA 11 for wildfire and DPA 13, which is a specific form and character area for waterfront landing. Flood hazards for the site were addressed with the covenants registered at rezoning. So this is the first DP application since the new Waterfront Landing Sub-Area Plan and Waterfront Landing South rezoning were adopted in July of 2025. The project was presented to Advisory Design Panel in February 2026, with most recommendations addressed prior to DP 651 being presented to Council this evening. DP 651 proposes a design that creates more open space and improves site permeability from what was originally contemplated at rezoning, which can be seen from the images on this slide. DP 651 proposes 2 six-story buildings, which is Building H and I, with a total of 234 rental units. Units include 25 affordable units, 19 adaptable units, 5 accessible units, and 20% 3 bedrooms. The site offers both a paved and lawned common open space area with barbecue and play feature amenities, and a publicly accessible dog park, shown in red, at the northwest corner of the site. At the south of the site, a public pathway, which is shown in yellow on the slide, connects Road B to Laurelwood Road and enhances pedestrian connectivity east-west through the site. The buildings sit above a single level of below-grade parking, which is accessed off Road B, which is shown with the red arrows. It provides a total of 254 parking stalls, meeting or exceeding the requirements of the CD40 zone. A parking breakdown is included in the table on the slide and shows that it exceeds regulations in residential parking stalls, accessible stalls, which was requested by ADP, and a Class A bike parking stalls. Additional on-street parking will be maximized along Road B frontage, with 9 new stalls currently proposed. Loading and waste collection are accommodated from an existing road letdown off Channel Road, which is shown by the orange arrow, and the development is proposing a centrally located at-grade bike storage facility with 2 separate bike accesses, one off Road B and another off the intersection of Channel Road and Laurelwood Road. These are shown in blue arrows there. The project also exceeds LDA storage provisions by providing 169 in-suite storage or centrally located storage lockers. The Waterfront Landing Sub-Area Plan supports flexibility in project phasing to respond to market conditions and allows Council to approve minor changes through an LDA amendment without amending the sub-area plan. This DP application includes 4 amendments for Council's consideration. I'll use the next slides to provide more detail on each amendment. So the first amendment is to allow occupancy of Phase 6 prior to the occupancy of Phase 5 and include the affordable housing provision in Phase 6. This amendment was requested by the applicant to capitalize on currently available funding opportunities for rental and affordable housing construction. Staff recommend endorsing the amendment because it will deliver affordable housing units and market rental housing units sooner than previously secured. The table on the slide compares the original LDA rental and affordable housing commitments with the current proposed LDA. The main change is really providing 25 affordable units in Phase 6 versus Phase 9A. And as you can see by the table, there is no net loss of affordable or rental units with this switch. And although the LDA is securing 201 units, the housing agreement is securing 209, which increases the overall secured market rental unit count by 8 units. So the second change is a phasing change to phases 9A and 9B. Phase 9A is the current location for the Waterfront Landing Sales Center. The proponent is proposing to move phase 9A to the final phase of the development, proposed at phase 11, to support maximized use of the sales center. A new phase 11 is proposed to remove confusing references to phase 9A and 9B. So the current amenities secured in 9A are 25 affordable housing units and 75 market rental units. The 25 affordable housing units will be secured as part of DP 651, and phase 9A, which could be phase 11, is 75 market rental units will be increased to 100 market rental units to ensure there's no net loss, as previously shown on the last slide. So this amendment also delivers phase 10 sooner, which includes the South District Park amenity. The third amendment includes changes to phase 9 and phase 10 polygons. This amendment was requested by staff to ensure flood hazard and foreshore requirements are constructed prior to phase 9 occupancy and reduce overall construction costs for the phase 10. Lastly, the final amendment is to secure the delivery of a sidewalk on the west side of Laurelwood Road from Channel Road to Clark Drive as part of the phase 6 servicing agreement. This sidewalk was not constructed in the initial road construction of Laurelwood Road, but is secured in Schedule B of the sub-area plan. This sidewalk was requested by Squamish Nation as an important transportation connection. To inform the community per policy, the project was posted to the district's development review webpage, and a development side was posted on the site. No requests for a public information meeting were received, and no comments were received. Staff have referred the application to relevant internal departments and external stakeholders and incorporated their comments into the proposal. So staff's recommendation this evening is that Council authorize the approval of development permit number DP 651 as presented, and that the mayor and corporate officer are authorized to issue DPA 651 subject to the following conditions, which include the registration of the market rental and affordable rental housing agreements, with a change that the motion should read 19 adaptable units and not 18 accessible units, and that's highlighted on the screen here. Registration of a Section 219 covenant for wildfire, and registration of a public right-of-way for the dog park and south pedestrian pathway. Staff are also recommending that the two housing agreements for 3242-2026 and 3243-2026 be given first, second, and third reading. Finally, that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the amended LDA. Alternatively, Council could approve the DP and housing agreement motions, but refer back to staff for the following LDA amendments. And that's a change to the condition 5 there. Or Council could refer DP 651, associated housing agreements and land development agreement amendments back to staff. Some implications to consider with these alternatives include, while DP 651 can be approved without LDA amendments, the phasing amendments for phase 5 and 6 are necessary for the DP 651 to receive occupancy. And any changes to the LDA require support from both the proponent and council, and a referral back to staff would delay progress of the project and may impact the project's economic viability. So that concludes my presentation for this evening, and welcome council's feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to get us started on this? I will start it with a question. Thank you very much for the presentation. On the mix of unit types, in the presentation it says that the 20% will be 3-bedroom. Does that hold for all the tenure types? Like the affordable housing has a similar split? I think I see a chart that says that in much of the documentation. I just wanted to make sure, I don't want to leave it to my own interpretation of that. So if I could get confirmation that the affordable units also have that 20% of 3-bedroom.
Yes, the affordable units do, but it doesn't apply to the adaptable units.
Okay, thank you for that. I hope I bought some time for someone else to, Councillor Anderson, you look like you're ready to jump in there. Go ahead.
In the land development agreement, there's provision for 2 public art installations. One is up ahead of us in phase 10, a public art piece celebrating the industrial and cultural heritage of Waterfront Landing. But otherwise, the other one is here in phase 5 or 6, if you might be able to orient me. My question is then this, the public art piece, a Coast Salish public art piece, is that a part of this phase? And if so, there's reference to district public art policy. If you may be able to remind me, if you have the information handy, if that involves utilizing the services or program of the public art advisor, that is our Squamish Arts. Could you provide this orientation regarding the public art piece scheduled for phases 5 or 6, if you could orient me?
Certainly. So through the mayor, the public art component of the rezoning, which was committed in the land development agreement, is for phase 5. There are a few provisions in Schedule C of the LDA that speak to have some language ensuring how that art is procured. And then it also provides a provision of ensuring that we get a security at that time as well. So it is not associated to the phase 6, which is this development in front of council today.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? I'm not seeing any hands, so perhaps we're to a recommendation. But go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just in the, I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but to the, what is it that I'm looking at? The housing agreement for the affordable housing. Appreciate the detail of securing some of the units, the 1-bedroom for the lone parent family income level. That is a notable advancement in the way that we've been doing our housing agreements. The challenge that I have with it as presented is, it's my understanding the way that we potentially, or the criteria that we use through BC Housing on bedroom assignments is if a lone parent has 2 children, one that identifies as female, the other that identifies as male, they're required to have 2 bedrooms, in which case they wouldn't be eligible for these units. So I'm just wondering if we've given any thought to being able to extend the lone parent family to 1 or 2 of the 2-bedroom units available.
Sorry, Councillor Stoner, could you just for the group, could you orient us as to which document you're referencing? There's a lot of
Yeah, it's the housing agreement for the affordable housing units. It's page 381 of our package. It details out the number of units that are being secured for affordable rental and the apartment unit types. There just aren't any designated 2-bedroom apartment types for a lone parent family income.
Okay, thank you. I see that now. I was in a different spot that had a similar title. I'll go to staff now.
Yeah, so through the mayor, this housing agreement was actually secured and negotiated at the rezoning stage and secured in the land development agreement. So all of that language was secured at that time. And we have not made any changes to that language since that was secured.
Councillor Pettingill?
Yeah, I guess I'll reverse the order of my questions, and maybe you just answered it. That in the adoption part of it was a no gas covenant on all uses, and then I did see like not charging for gas in the housing agreement. I kind of wonder, well, why does that need to be there if we've said no gas for all uses? So is this? I guess I'll confirm that the covenant has been put in place, because it was a condition of adoption.
So through the mayor, the no gas covenant is a clause in the land development agreement. It does not stipulate when it has to be registered, and it is planned to be registered at the building permit stage.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The other thing then, just Channel Road is that a strata road or a district road or a strata with a right of way or something, or?
Through the mayor, Channel Road is a district road. Road B is a strata road.
Okay. Other questions, council? I'm not seeing any, although I can hear the wheels turning in the room. So I'll give folks space to maybe compile another question or figure out what information we need to work towards the decision. We do have the recommendation before us, and this one obviously has its multiple pieces: the development permit, and then into the housing agreements, and so on. So lots to consider here. Is there someone that's ready to make a motion? I don't have any hands from the speakers list. Councillor Hamilton, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready to move the staff recommendation, and I assume that parts 1, 2, and 3
all together, yeah.
Part 8B can all be moved together.
Yes,
yeah.
That's correct. Councillor French seconds, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, thanks very much. So this is a development permit. So it's not a rezoning here. All of the things here seem to be moving in the right direction, moving the delivery of affordable and market rental forward in the phasing, ensuring that we have delivery of amenities sort of preloaded to ensure they're delivered. Yeah, those are the primary pieces for me that make this DP really the front loading of more of the deliverables for us is what really makes this quite easy for me to support. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor French, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. Yeah, lots to like in what's being delivered in this package, and I don't see any downsides. And I do want to highlight 2 accessible parking stalls over what's required for my friends in that accessible community who are frustrated with what they feel is too few accessible spots in our downtown area. I think this is very forward thinking.
Thank you. Other comments on this? Oh, Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
First, I'm glad to see attention given to the sidewalk. I take it that's on the south side of Laurelwood, connecting through to Squamish Reserve, and there'll be more consideration of that connection in future. I also think that the flexibility in phasing within the overall LDA is important. It's important we can work with developers in this way, working together to respond to evolving market conditions. Finally, I like the green facade, the West Forum Forest green corrugated metal. However, I have to offer my pet peeve comments, as my colleagues will already be familiar with my pet peeve about our DPA 13B Section 15 regarding colors. To quote, the use of warm or natural colors found in the local maritime or temperate rainforest environment are encouraged. I think we should abandon that. What we have is too much brown and off-white tones. To quote from the design rationale here, this green that we have in this instance is in fact refreshing. It's not common, but we have a lot of beige brown and off-white. I think that we should in future look to free the architects to pursue innovation and excellence in facade design, materials, and colors. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments on this? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thanks. I will be supporting the motion on the floor. As mentioned by my colleague, this is a development permit with no variances requested. As I see in the package in the staff report, the proposal in front of us meets the development permit guidelines. Despite my council colleagues griping around colors, I hear the continued call for changes to our development permit guidelines so that we can free the architects and provide more color in our community. I'm with you on that one. I think the proposed amendments to the phasing of the land development agreement make good sense in this case. I'm always a proponent for bringing the affordable housing units sooner rather than later. I was a little bit concerned about the shift in the massing, in particular losing the setbacks of the upper stories, but I actually think as I look through the package, the breaking up a little bit of the building helps with that. And I think, as Councillor Anderson mentioned, the attention to adding the sidewalk on the south side of Laurelwood will also be well appreciated, I think, across the community. So happy to support as presented.
Councillor Pettingill, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to support this as well. I think it is bringing the below market sooner, adding rental, although it gets pushed a little bit later for that exchange. But overall, I think the adjustments make sense and do bring some of that below market forward. I think my colleague makes a good point about maybe our housing agreements are a bit too restrictive for some family makeups, and so if further adjustments are needed in the future, because this is a large development with still more to come. And so, maybe this is an area we could find some adjustment in the future. I guess I would say, in general, I support the idea, I think, of opening up more architectural freedom for color and so on. At the same time, I actually think the colors in this development look and fit quite well. So I wouldn't take that as a criticism of what's there and what's proposed. I guess I'm always conscious, I know there's debates back and forth around parking, but we don't, with the provincial housing legislation, we are required to build a lot more housing and invite a lot more people, but in how we design, we can impact how many new cars are coming to the community, even if we can't impact how many new people as much. And every new car that comes, whether or not it has a parking spot at home, is going to be out on the streets and parking out elsewhere and the rest of the time. And so for me, I don't just see the parking at that site. I mean, what's the impact on the rest of the day when those people aren't at home? And that's a lot of new cars on the street. But, I think this isn't the, I'll leave it there at the comment for now. But I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'm speaking in support of the motion. I think this makes good sense. As we heard, this is a development permit and it meets the requirements of the development permit. We've heard some, challenges, I guess, to what those guidelines are, but there's no doubt that these meet the guidelines that exist. Two separate issues. And I think that I think this really improves the outcome and I'm happy to see this move forward. The rental and both market and affordable are incredibly important to our community, and there's opportunity now to deliver those early, which is great. And these will be delivered to our downtown. The bridge that will be in operation soon dramatically changes this both this neighborhood in Sea and Sky and the downtown neighborhood, in that these new units really will be within a 2-minute walk to our downtown core. So this is really exciting, and is not dissimilar to a project like this coming for 4th or 5th Avenue or something like that in our existing neighborhood. So that's how close it is to downtown. It's really exciting, and I think what we see here really speaks to that location and how walkable the community will be for those folks, while not asking for a reduction in parking requirements or anything that way to achieve that. So quite exciting, and happy to see this move forward. And yeah, so with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Greenlaw opposes. Motion carries. Thank you. Then we have the subsequent housing agreements. Is there anything for this? Just flows through from that. We've addressed those fulsomely. Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I just want to further test. So I appreciate that. I think the number of units was agreed to through the rezoning and in the land development agreement. But were these actual housing agreements in the land? Like, why would we be passing 3 readings now if they were secured in the land development agreement?
Through the mayor, the clauses and the conditions and all the texts were secured in the LDA.
I'll go to you, Councillor Penigo.
I wonder, is this a thing where this is an important, like, this is maybe something where the developer may not object to an opening of this up, or maybe it does complicate things? Like, is this actually something that everyone would be in favor of easily changing right now, or is this?
Let's maybe if we could narrow down here. We've got two items left on this. The first one, as it's listed in our agenda, is perhaps how we could look at it, which is the market piece, which I didn't hear concerns around, but maybe there are. But let's deal with the market piece first, and then we'll deal with the affordable piece. Just the question was quite broad, and there's a lot of pieces, or there's those 2 pieces left. I'm assuming those comments were to the affordable. So, okay, Councillor Stoner moves the market. I'm going to assume that you're going to second that, Councillor Pettingill, so we can get to your piece. Thank you. Any comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Greenlaw opposes. Motion carries. So now we are on to the affordable piece, and I believe this is what your question was. Could you sorry, just restate it?
Well, I think, from my colleague, it seems that some of our assignment based on family type, I don't know if that's quite the right word, is maybe more composition is maybe more restrictive than it needs to be. And it's not clear to me that anyone would have an objection to changing that particular thing, but maybe I'm wrong. So I guess it's a question. Is this something like, hey, this is easy, we're all on board, we can just make that adjustment? Or is this, no, this would require a fair bit more discussion?
I'll see if there's a staff reply, but I think Councillor Stoner has comment on this as well. So just wait and see if there's a staff reply, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Stoner. Any comment on this piece? It would just need to be discussed with proponent. Any changes in here? Is that what?
Thank you. Through the chair, it would need to be discussed with the proponent. The housing agreement is standard with our current covenant templates at this time.
Okay, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, just a few other questions around the standard agreement or the template. I didn't see any language in here that would require or allow the district first right of refusal on who tenants the affordable housing units, which is something that we have previously included in affordable housing agreements. So understanding that these are a community amenity that we are receiving, as opposed to just having the developer go ahead and tenant them and or choose who they may wish to tenant them. We have previously requested that developers pool them, and so that there's a common understanding amongst our community, and ideally use a centralized wait list to fill those spaces. And I may have missed it, but I don't see that language in here.
Through the mayor, we are just currently trying to find the exact clause, but I am aware that it is in there, and maybe Jonas has found it.
Mr. Melniscus, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair. So I'm just looking up the affordable housing agreement, and it does look like it's in here as 2.4G. The district may, in its sole and absolute discretion, require the owner to use a person or entity selected by the district, including any district employer or corporate entity controlled or affiliated with the district, to manage the selection of eligible tenants.
Thank you very much. That is very helpful. And then my one other question was around the charge for in-suite laundry, which I feel like is also new in here, or not something that we had previously included in, as the language in like the earlier part of the housing agreement says that the unit should be built as they would be for market. Which I would assume would typically include in-suite laundry. So why would we add a $25 surcharge for in-suite laundry? And sorry, that's clause 2.4J sub A, page 361.
Through the mayor, a lot of those changes, there were some specific changes made for waterfront landing at that rezoning time, and that language was, again, secured in the LDA. Some of the provisions that were negotiated at that time had to do with changes to reflect the specific amenity buildings and the specific charges that were being applied to 3BC and trying to mitigate those charges for future affordable housing units. I'm unaware if that change also included this one as well, but I do know that there was a lot of negotiation around the different charges and trying to ensure and reduce the amount of charges in this housing bylaw. I believe this one is probably a standard provision from the that has been used in other housing agreements, but and that's why it was included here, but I can't speak to it specifically.
Okay, other questions on this one? I'm going to move the staff recommendation, and I'll speak to it if it's seconded. Anybody? Councillor Hamilton, thank you. I think to me this is sort of bringing the commitments that were negotiated and agreed upon in earlier discussions forward into this particular housing agreement bylaw. I think that some of the matters that we're discussing we'd be well served to revisit, to have a look at the template, make sure we all understand and agree to what's in the template. I also think that the template is relatively new and is newer than these matters that were agreed to in previous decisions, for better, for worse. So I think at this point in time, I'm comfortable for this to move forward. So we're not holding a sort of moving the goalposts throughout what is a long process. Now, similar to the DP guidelines, it's hard to hold someone to a standard that we don't another standard than what we've put into practice already. So I think that perhaps these things should be looked at, and I don't know when next we look at a affordable housing agreement, and if it'll be part of some other lengthy decade-long process to get to us to for all good reasons, or if it'll be something to be a little bit cleaner to be able to look at that piece in actually a fair way for the proponent as well. So I think at this point I'm comfortable to see this move forward, but just flag that in future. There's some pieces that came up for me tonight that I think require some additional scrutiny, but I have a hard time holding them to a higher standard than what we've articulated already. Other comments on this? Councillor Stoner?
I won't be supporting the motion on the floor, mostly out of principle. I appreciate that this may have been agreed to at the land development agreement component in rezoning. Those packages are massive, and the minor amendments that then would have happened between the rental agreements from one to the other. Typically, we're focused on form and character at rezoning. Sorry, not form and character, land use density, and kind of high level secure community amenities as a result. I think that this is a really minor change that can make a big difference for folks who are grappling to get 30% of their income to scrape by in an affordable housing unit. And then they're getting charged an extra $25 a month for in-suite laundry, and then an extra market rate for their parking stall, and in addition for hydro and so on and so forth. So the list goes on. And when you're already at 30% for your rental rate, there just isn't much wiggle room. And then it makes it unaffordable for folks to live here. And so out of principle, I'm just going to not support the motion on the floor.
Thank you. Other comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And opposed? Councillor Greenlaw and Stoner opposed. Motion carries. Thank you so much. So we have nothing under item 10 or 11, but we did have an item under 12, which would be referred from the consent agenda, which was the Dryden Creek Wildfire After Action Review. Councillor Pettingill, I believe it was you that pulled that, if my notes are right.
Yeah, and I did send through a question. I'm not sure we'll have the staff in the audience. Just very quick, and it came up in the committee of the whole about the Community Wildfire Resilience Plan. But it is something that I hear about, so I wanted to ask, because I did see that the emergency sort of evacuation planning and all those sort of things, I know those are coming, part of separate plans. I just wanted to check sort of confirm what are those called and when would we expect to see that work happening?
Okay, so as is our sort of standard operating here, is that when we have a memo like this, we are unlikely to have the folks in the room to speak to it. But let's see if we can get comment at this point in time, and if we aren't able to answer this question, we may need to refer us to a future meeting to have a discussion. But perhaps I see we have someone that is ready to step in, so go ahead.
Thank you. Just a very high level comment or answer to Council's question, in that we are, UBCM does make a grant available yearly for evacuation planning. And we are planning to apply if there's another intake in 2027. So that work, if the program is available and we apply and are successful, that work wouldn't likely be done until at least the end of 2027.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Additional questions? With my earlier caveat stands, we may not have the depth of expertise in the room, but I'll go to or we may. But Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'm pleased to hear that there may be prospect to assess our evacuation planning or plans at this time, and that would also include marine. We have some updates in a marine situation that would be handy to do that. So I'm pleased to hear that. I wanted to comment and just leave it as a comment regarding the scope. The scope did address the district's emergency operations and its role in coordination and collaboration with several entities, Squamish Fire Rescue, and the nation's involvement. However, the scope did not include a review of the roles or activities of other external entities, and that would include BC Wildfire Service, involved in the response and recovery activities associated with the Dragon Creek wildfire, quoting from the report. So I'm curious about that scope, and one of the issues that did come up regarding the coordination between ourselves and the various actors together was the evacuation order. An issue that came to council's attention is the hardship that was encountered for the adjacent campground business in the delineation and mapping of the area of application for the evacuation order and its duration. And so that I did happen to visit and engage with the campground owners, and they really were stressed by this issue. And I would have welcomed the opportunity to review those circumstances and how we might address them in future. Not least the mapping. It came to light that our district GIS mapping had some glitches, which did have some impacts on the delineation of that evacuation order. So I'll just leave it at that then. The scope for me, the report was a surprise, a welcome surprise. Happy with the recommendations, but that particular aspect of the scope I would have liked to have seen for next time around, that we are able to work in coordination in an optimal way to alleviate the issues that did come up in Dragon Creek Fire. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would put it to my council colleague. I'll go to you actually, Councillor Pettingill. Would you be ready to move receipt or make a motion otherwise? So I'll go to you.
Yeah, happy to move receipt. I just wanted that high level. Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that. Would you like to speak to it any further?
No, I appreciate the reflection. I think it is really important when something like this happens, and something that was, a lot of people were on edge. And so just to, I think it's really worthwhile to sort of reflect back and what did we have to learn? Because unfortunately we'll be facing this again, and turned out well, all things considered this time. And so it's important to make sure that we keep it that way. So appreciate all the work. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Council, any other comments on this? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, I want to thank my colleague for pulling this item just to raise some awareness around it, and thank staff for the incredible amount of effort that went into both the response during the emergency as well as the time to reflect on the lessons learned through this document. It's, I think, one of the benefits of the new Emergency Disaster Management Act is that there is a lot more focus on the recovery component of a disaster. As presented in this report, we were the first community to actually be able to take advantage of the local recovery period, which is a new formal designation under the amended or the updated act. And do things like this after action review, I think definitely just helps build the capacity within our organization to reflect on what went well, where we could have done better, and how we improve everything from our IT systems to our emergency evacuation planning. So I just think that this is a great piece of work, and just hope that the province continues to fund it adequately so that other organizations and communities can do it as well.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Again, just I'm trying to figure out who to thank. Whether it was I'll start with my colleague for pulling this so we can give it a bit of a closer look, and then the folks compiling the report, and of course all the way back to the folks responding to the emergency and keeping our community safe. I think as we go forward and climate change is very real and is very much happening. We will have more challenges ahead, and I hope that my expectation, more than a hope, my expectation is that recommendations in this report are action to the fullest extent possible over the time ahead. And some of those we heard have funding opportunities associated with them, which will push the timeline out. Others I see as being maybe less significant, which means hopefully they can happen sooner. But this provides some strong guidance as to what those actions are going forward. I also so I'm happy to see that and have these process improvements, we'll call it, occur over time to keep us all safe in future. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. No business arising from the minutes. I don't believe we have any notice of motion. Open question period. If anyone in the audience has any questions of clarity about what happened here today, seeing no hands, I will move on to council or staff announcements. Who would like to kick us off here? Go ahead, Councillor French, then Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. The annual Lower Mainland Local Government Association Conference was held last week, and I want to shine a little light on that. It's the annual gathering of elected officials from Pemberton to Hope. I found all of the sessions valuable, and of particular interest was a session on diversity in local government. It featured an interesting panel, a diverse panel, that was made up of Councillor Nadine Nakagawa of New Westminster, former MLA Kelly Padden, twin brothers Jason and Jerry Song, who actually appeared in these chambers a few months ago, along with Jordan Simons of Nominee, a company specializing in civic education with a focus on underrepresented communities in politics. A couple quick takeaways for me. Diversity builds resilience and represents good governments. I agree wholeheartedly. Civics education, a bit lacking in our education system. And for minority populations, there are many barriers preventing entry into elected offices. With municipal elections just a few months away, I'll take what I learned from that session and encourage all the parents who intend to vote to bring their children along with them for the experience. Let them see how voting works on voting day. This allows them from a young age to understand that voting isn't complicated. It's easy, and it can be also an opportunity to see people and have a social time that, people you haven't seen for a while, because you just never know who you're going to come across while you're waiting to vote, if in fact you do have to wait to vote, because my experience is if you go at a strategic time, you can move through the process very quickly. And I also, one more item, Sunday was the annual Squamish Youth Triathlon at Brennan Park. I had the honor of being the finish line announcer, something that I've done for many years. Athletes from the ages of, get this, 18 months. Okay, I didn't say 18 years. I just said 18 months to 17 years of age participated in the event. And the 2027 organizing committee is, let's call it, incomplete. They're looking for a few new faces, some fresh new ideas from new people. So if there is anybody seeing this that thinks they might like to be part of the organizing committee for next year's Youth Tri, well, you could reach out to me, but you could also go to the Youth Triathlon webpage. There's information there on who to contact and how to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Greenlaw.
Thanks. I'm just going to inhale here because I got a lot to say. Anyways, a few things to touch on tonight. It is officially BC Youth Week. If you are youth or you have youth in your life, just keep an eye out for special events over the course of the week. This is a provincial initiative, so there could be stuff anywhere between, like anywhere in BC. So keep an eye out. Youth Council. Our Youth Council ran a great event a week and a half ago that saw about 75 youth come out to participate in the RISE Summit. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the presenters. Thanks to Christine McLeod, who kept everything on track. And thanks so much to our amazing youth who really showed up and pulled off this summit. There's a lot of hope that we keep this, that we make the summit an annual event. So watch this space next year. And of course, thanks to Councillors Pettengill and Stoner for all their help as well, as they're also, they also help with the Squamish Youth Council. I attended the Youth Excellence Award on Friday in a film screening that they chose. And I want to say congratulations to all of our youth who are awarded and all of the adults who are helping the youth in our community. The movie they chose to put on was called, it was published in 2018 or came out in 2018, and it's called Youth Unstoppable, and it was about youth climate change advocacy. They had intended to end this film on a high note after the Paris Agreement, but unfortunately, I think we all know what happened between 2016 and 2018. And when I got home after this screening, the first headline that I saw was Trump-approved pipeline could increase Canada-US oil exports by 1 million barrels per day, experts say, which is shameful. I felt really angry and upset throughout the film, and when I got home, by the complete and utter lack of leadership on behalf of our provincial and federal governments that have shown, frankly, zero regard for keeping our planet livable for future generations. And I just want to, once again, as a nurse scientist, express my utter disgust at our provincial and federal governments for their repeated reckless decisions on many fronts, but in this case, in the inexhaustible exploitation of our resources and the climate changing legacy that they seem adamant to exacerbate. I'm full of fun today. Okay, the last meeting I made a statement about a study that came out of the University of New Brunswick around sexual assault, and trigger warning once again. I just didn't want to leave misleading information. The study that I referred to, the population size was 3,000 men, but they were all men who had voluntarily identified as using sexually aggressive tactics to coerce women. So it's a statistic that's not representative of the overall population of men, but of this 3,000 man subsect, and I just didn't want to leave a misrepresentation out there, and I wanted to clarify that. And sticking on that subject of the abuse of women, today is Red Dress Day, a national day of remembrance and activism to honor the lives of the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirited peoples. And the purpose of this day is to raise awareness about the disproportionate rates of violence against Indigenous women and to call for justice and systemic change. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to express my support and solidarity for those Indigenous sisters and two-spirited folks that we have lost over the years. And again, echo my comments from last week from our last regular, to just reflect on how we can all be better representatives and better allies around gender violence against women and non-binary peoples, and for all of us to reflect on just how oppression compounds through like misogyny and racism and all of these pieces, and just look at our lives and how we can be the best allies we are. And for those of you who are interested, we do the legal petition for the PST changes to professional services and textiles is live and is actively being circulated. If anyone's interested in circulating this petition in their communities and their groups, wherever you are in the province, whoever you are, you can email me and I'll send it to you. This is a legal petition, so it needs physical signatures and it has to be returned to me when it's completed. So let me know and I can hook you up. And I think we all need a palate cleanser after this. So this is Mother's Day weekend, this Sunday, and I just want to remind everybody to be extra sweet to the ladies that you love. And best wishes to especially all of our new and soon-to-be moms that are on staff here, which is amazing. I'm so excited about this. Also, Bird Friendly Squamish is having a bird festival on Saturday at the Town Dyke Trail from 9 to noon. And our Pride Sidewalk is coming back. Yay! So there's going to be a celebration for that on Saturday at 11 to welcome it back to our community. Full circle.
That was quite the ride. Thank you for bringing us all the way back to the start. I'll go to Councillor Pettengill. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. A few things. So I guess it was 2 Saturdays ago, I saw Tempest put on the Sea to Sky Dance Collective at Eagle Eye Theater. It was, I guess you'd call it modern dance. I'd never been to something like that before, and wow, it was quite a performance. Michael Hewitt, who's been, he's not living in Squamish at the moment, but has been a long time, I guess, supporter and creator in the arts, did all the lighting and all the sound. And then, of course, it's local dancers and choreographers. It was just amazing. I am finding I need glasses, so it's really hard. I didn't have them, and I was looking for people I knew when they were dancing, and I couldn't really see. But other than that, it was fantastic. And then this past Saturday, Squamish Community Music Festival had their highlights concert. So it was sort of a lot of the top performances. We have a record number of kids going from Squamish to Prince George competing. So I think I talk about this every year, but it's just growing and growing and growing, and so exciting. And some of our staff have kids going, and so congrats to everyone who performed and who's going to be competing on behalf of Squamish. I'll just add a little bit to the Lower Mainland Local Government Association conference. The Honorable Jane Austen, our former Lieutenant Governor, was our keynote speaker, but she actually hung out the whole weekend and was sort of interested in learning about what we do and was having conversations with everyone. It's really fantastic. I hadn't sort of just the access, and there are times when she actually had more power than the Prime Minister, which is wild. And she's there spending the whole weekend with us. It was a really good, it's my second term. At coming up to the fourth year, I guess this felt like the goodbyes seemed a bit more serious because I'm reflecting on some of the relationships I've built over the last 8 years and people that just care so deeply about their community. And we go to these conferences and spend a lot of time like, how are you dealing with this? Like, what are you doing there? There's a great session, which some things I'd like to explore going forward here on community assemblies and different ways of doing engagement, which is really interesting. In almost every community, lots of discussion about homelessness and encampments and the challenges that people are having in sorting this out and the really difficult discussions. And so I'm really going to miss some folks. And I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but this one felt like the goodbyes were a bit more serious in a way. And there's some folks that unfortunately aren't running and have just been just so incredible for their communities. And so it was a sort of a bittersweet LMLGA.
Thank you. You weren't gonna. I thought you were gonna demonstrate the wave that we were taught. Can I goad you into that?
My arms are too injured.
Okay, I'll save that for mine. Some foreshadowing. Any other updates, Councillor? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Heritage BC is having their annual conference and annual general meeting in Squamish and Britannia Beach. It opened last night at the Adventure Center, where approximately 60, 70 people were there. And one of the things that came up was to acknowledge a former Squamish resident, Kirsten Clausen, who was not ready to retire and went on to head up as executive director of Heritage BC. Is now retiring from that position. The program is focused at Britannia Mine Museum today, and tomorrow, the final day, will be some presentations at House on It. It is sold out. Hopefully there'll be some reporting. There will certainly be some outcomes of community interest. Lots of resources and resource people, advisory people have issues, other people have solutions in other communities, funding program updates, relevance to us. It is exactly 10 years ago that a number of heritage organizations and Squamish Nation elders, the Arts Council and the Chamber of Commerce and the library appeared before council here 10 years ago in April to ask that a heritage strategy be placed on the council strategic plan. And so a lot of other communities are also struggling with making progress on heritage matters, and it's great to be comparing notes with them. We have lots to learn, and we can show them some things as well. So at any rate, we have 75 delegates attending the conference from all parts of the province, enjoying Squamish attractions and hospitality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other updates? Go ahead, Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you. I think my colleagues covered almost all of them. Thank you for the in-depth updates. I will also just flag a few weeks ago, I joined our council meeting remotely and had to drop off a little bit early. I was in Victoria on behalf of the Union of BC Municipalities for our quarterly executive meeting, as well as our advocacy days, something that we do every year on behalf of local governments from across the province. We head to Victoria and raise awareness of what UBCM is and some of the core issues for local governments as they are. We try and meet with about 35 to 40 MLAs from across the political spectrum every year. This year, our key messages revolved around the following three topics. One was ensuring that folks recognize local government as an order of government, not just stakeholders to consult with, but really, as per the community charter, we are identified as an order of government, and that requires a broader level of consultation. The second was around encouraging and requesting that the province be a strong advocate and ally to local governments in maintaining our existing financing tools for infrastructure, in particular development cost charges and amenity cost charges, which are at risk in current federal requirements for the Build Communities Strong Fund. So there's an expectation right now that from the feds that we give up part of our DCCs in order to receive federal funding. And we're asking the province to come alongside with us and advocate that just doesn't really make good financial sense for anyone at the end of the day. And then the last one is around filling the gaps in emergency management. And we spoke to this a little bit earlier this evening around some of the progress that has been made with the new Emergency Disasters Management Act. But there's still some really substantial gaps in expectations of what local governments will do through that act, and limited understanding or knowledge of funding or capacity building in order to achieve those potentially new responsibilities that are being downloaded onto us. So requests for one-time funding to complete compliant risk assessments, for example, and ongoing dedicated funding and capacity building tied directly to the new EDMA responsibilities. So those are some of the key areas that we've been advocating for on behalf of the province.
Great, thank you. Any other updates before I go into mine? Seeing none, LMLGA conference has been spoken to a fair bit. I'm on the board of the LMLGA as the SLRD appointed by the SLRD. Councillor Pettingill was being modest a little bit with his what is your new your new title is, are you first vice president of LMLGA? So depending on decisions and outcomes of the upcoming election, could be the future president of LMLGA. So I've been on the board since I was elected mayor. So I think this is my fourth conference that I've been a part of the organization, and it was there was a lot of energy in the room of folks saying goodbye that are choosing to step back, like myself, and many with much more time in local government, some astounding amount of time in government, but it was really great to spend time with colleagues from around the Lower Mainland. And just to give a quick window into what types of things happen here, sessions on things like lessons learned from municipal council conflict that included special advisors that were appointed to particularly contentious councils. We had quite an inspiring keynote from Janet Austin, who did spend a remarkable amount of time with the group throughout the conference, and in such really a casual and playful way for someone that's held such a esteemed role. And I'm going to try the wave. I was taught the royal wave. I caught her doing it. It's like, is that the wave? And she's like, yes. It's not like this. The palm, showing the palm to in some cultures is bad. It's actually back this. And she was just doing this as she waved to people on the way in. So that's the royal wave. Apparently, it's also sustainable for a long period of time should you find yourself in a large crowd and need to wave for an hour or so. So she was lovely and good humored, and also there was where else do I want to go here? A great resolution session debating what types of changes we would like to see to various regulations from the province that will feed into ultimately UBCM. In the fall, a session on strengthening public participation and lessons learned, and a new way of doing this, and also a Q&A session with Brittany Anderson, Minister of State for Local Government and Rural Communities. And I quite enjoyed the media panel, which was moderated by our own Councillor Pettingill with Justin McElroy and Dan Fumano, and just to get their perspective on these folks cover local government for a living, and it was great to get their insights to where things are and what the upcoming silly season, election season will look like, and some great stories from their experience of covering those over the years. So all in all, a great opportunity to come together and learn, and with our colleagues that are trying to address similar issues in their communities that we're facing here in Squamish. And one of the things I really enjoy about this role is, unlike anything in the private sector, if someone's having a challenge with something, it's like, oh, copy mine. Here's our bylaw. Here's our process for doing whatever it is that you're doing. Or here's the process we've used. Cautionary tale, avoid this, avoid that. So very collaborative and great, and I will miss participation in that conference going forward. I was going to thank you to Councillor Greenlaw for bringing up the Red Dress Day, and I wanted to speak to this. I was going to start our night with this during the opening statement, but I felt maybe this is a better spot. And as we heard, today is a National Day of Awareness, Remembrance, and Action for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirited People. Communities across Canada mark the day by hanging red dresses in trees and windows to symbolize the ongoing crisis of violence and honoring the victims and survivors while calling for justice. I think it's important that folks read the final report on the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and demand the implementation of the 231 calls for justice. Let's see if I can get through my plan here. I'm going to attempt a poem. Let's see how this goes. Hold on. This is by Deirdre S. Powell. The red dress hangs empty, but not forgotten. She was a daughter, a sister, a story cut short. We don't need a file. We don't need a number. We need her name to thunder. Say it. Hang it. Wear red for her. Cry out for her. They vanished, but we see them still. In wind, in will, in the way we fight for justice that stands still. No more silence, no more shame. We'll light up the fire and call each name, because she was more, she was here, and her name is still near. That was by Deirdre S. Powell. In the spirit of that, Therina Adrian Silva was a member of Squamish Nation who went missing after last contact on April 29th, 2002. Her remains were discovered on December 15th, 2002 in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm going to leave my comments there and move termination of this meeting. Second by Councillor Hamilton. All in favor? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Herford. I was moved and I was touched. And that was a fitting tribute to this day. Thank you.
I'll call the question. All in favor?